Joined now by our political analysts, Donna Brazile and Christie. Thank you all for coming in. I almost don't know where to begin after all of that. First of all, Chris, let's talk about where we just left off on the pardoning of those who who assaulted police officers.
Well, he's made this really clear, George, over time, and he's, in fact, Donald Trump has them singing before his rallies, singing the national anthem. It calls them hostages, etc. I don't think there's really any question that the only person who's inconsistent this morning is Byron Donalds. Trump's been consistent. He says he's going to pardon them. And what people need to understand about Donald Trump is what I've learned over 22 years. When he says something, he's going to do it. And so if he says he's going to pardon those folks, if he's elected, you could take to the bank that he will.
It's also clear, Donna Brazile, the Trump team is not going to back away from questioning the vice president's racial identity.
Look, I recognize, George, that the playbook of the late 60s and the 70s, and even is not too far ago in 2011, when then Barack Obama, the president of the United States, they questioned his birth certificate. This is an old playbook. America is tired of this playbook. We're tired of questioning people's background simply because they don't look like something or someone else. Donald Trump wants to be the arbiter of who is an American, and he's not.
Is this strategy or impulse?
Impulse. You can't imagine that anybody who understands anything about politics would say, hey, here's a great idea. Go to the National Association of Black Journalists and question whether Kamala Harris is really black or not. This is what happens, George, and this is how you can tell that this race is changing. Because what happens is, when Donald Trump's ahead and he feels like he's comfortably ahead, he is willing to go with conventional, smart political advice. As soon as he thinks it's getting close, he goes back to the greatest hits. You saw this at the convention. When he didn't think he was getting the reaction he wanted from the beginning of the speech, he went back to the greatest hits. You saw it at the NABJ, and you saw it last night in Atlanta.
Attacking the Republican governor.
Right. Now, here's Brian Kemp, who he has attacked mercilessly since 2020. Sponsored a primary candidate against him, who, by the way, Kemp got 70% of the vote against in the primary, beat Trump's endorsed candidate. And this is a guy who won big in 2022 when lots of other Republicans up and down the ticket, including in Georgia, were losing. And so to attack Kemp is a stupid thing, but this is who he is, George. This is personal. He's juvenile. And so he's going to continue to attack not only Brian Kemp, but the women of Georgia should have heard loud and clear last night. He attacked First Lady Marty Kemp just as viciously as he attacked the governor. And that's the greatest hits. That's what he'll go back to.
Let's talk about Kamala Harris. Donna, she's having final interviews today with the vice presidential choices. A handful of white men, governors and senators, are being considered. Is there any clear choice?
I do believe that she's going to look for a governing choice, somebody who will be ready on day one. Look, she went through this process 4 years ago. She knows what the job, she knows what it takes. She has, I think, an exhaustive list of talented people, some probably better than others. I'm excited about the choice that she will make later today. And as you well know, tomorrow the voting concludes for the delegates. George, it goes without saying, these last 2 weeks have been extremely difficult. Difficult in the sense that we didn't have a playbook. But what we utilized, of course, inside the Democratic Party was a playbook that Joe Biden and others put together to give us a very smooth transition. So the vice president is ready. I can't show my hands, of course. I have a couple of favorites. But as somebody who spent time in 2000 at the table and in 2020, encouraging the, then Vice President Joe Biden to select Kamala Harris, I know she will make a really good historic choice today.
Chris, the short list includes your neighboring governor, Josh Shapiro, Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota, Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona, Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky, also Pete Buttigieg, and some others. I was struck this week at the convention, the Black Journalists Convention, when Donald Trump was asked about J.D. Vance, he said vice presidential picks don't matter.
Right. A ringing endorsement.
In this case, does it matter? Does Kamala's choice matter?
Matters a lot. And I think it matters a lot for two reasons. One, it's going to show whether she's really trying to reach out to her entire party and, by extension, the entire country. I think she needs to pick someone who's viewed as more moderate than her. I think she needs to pick someone who's got more governing experience at the ground level. That's why I think she will pick a governor. And secondly, I think it's really important because she's going to send a very clear signal about how she makes decisions. And look, when you're vice president, let's face it, you don't make a lot of decisions. The president makes those decisions, and you try to help him or her implement that, right? So I think that'll show that too. But look, I'm going to go where Donna won't go. It should be Josh Shapiro. I don't think this is a hard choice. He's a very talented politician. He's extraordinarily popular, 65% job approval in a state she needs to win. This is really important. And I'll tell you this, if she picks Shapiro on Tuesday, Donald Trump created Josh Shapiro.
How so?
He endorsed Mastriano, the weakest Republican candidate in that field. What it allowed Josh Shapiro to do was, instead of playing to his base to try to win a narrow election, he saw an opportunity for a coalition-building election, and that's what he did. So now he's seen as a coalition builder because he did it, but the only reason he could do it is because Trump made another ridiculously stupid endorsement by endorsing Mastriano, who was a flawed, weak, bad candidate. If Josh Shapiro winds up winning and Trump loses Pennsylvania, he can go back to his decision in 2022 as planting the seeds for that loss.
We only have about a minute left. I want to ask you each about debates. You think we're going to see them this year?
I know that Kamala Harris is committed to debating here at ABC News. And I also want to say one other thing. $300 million in 2 weeks, over 300,000, maybe more volunteers, the kind of enthusiasm. I was with the bricklayers this past week in Michigan. People are coming on board. They're rallying for her, but she's also helping down ballot candidates. This is going to be a great campaign, but she knows she has an uphill fight.
Quickly, she needs to perform well over the next 2 weeks. If she does, that will put the kind of pressure on Donald Trump to make him know he has to debate. So
he'll debate if he has to.
Right. Make a good choice for VP and run a good convention. She does those two things, he'll be on the debate stage somewhere with her. I hope it's here.
Thank you all very much.